Have you ever met someone who seemed to have it all, wealth, luxury, success, but still felt something was missing? What if I told you that true happiness has nothing to do with money? This is the story of a school teacher and his student, an unforgettable lesson that changed one boy's life forever. And after hearing it, you might never look at happiness the same way again. In a small but lively town, nestled between rolling green hills and calm rivers, there lived a respected school teacher named Mr. Rao. He wasn't rich, nor did he desire fame or luxury. He was a simple man who found joy in teaching and shaping young minds. Among his many students, one boy stood out, Arav. Arav came from a wealthy family. He had everything money could buy: the newest smartphones, designer clothes, extravagant vacations. His parents had built a life of luxury for him, believing it would make him happy. But it didn't. Despite having everything, Arav always felt restless. No matter how many new things he got, the excitement faded quickly. He envied his classmates, not because they were rich, but because they seemed genuinely happy. They laughed over silly jokes, shared their lunches, and found joy in the simplest moments. One afternoon after class, Arav stayed behind. He hesitated before speaking, but finally asked, "Sir, may I ask you something?" "Of course, Arav," Mr. Rao said warmly. The boy sighed. "Why do I feel so empty? My parents buy me everything, but I don't feel happy. What's wrong with me?" Mr. Rao looked at him thoughtfully. He had seen this struggle before. He knew that no amount of money could fill a heart that longed for meaning. "Arav," he said, "would you like to join me after school tomorrow? I have something to show you." Intrigued, Arav agreed. He had no idea that this meeting would change his life forever. The next day, instead of going home to his luxurious house, Arav followed Mr. Rao through the narrow streets of town. They walked past crowded markets, past small tea stalls where people laughed over steaming cups of chai, and finally reached a small house on the outskirts of the town. Inside, a little boy sat on the floor, playing with a set of old, worn-out marbles. His clothes were faded, his shoes barely held together, but his eyes sparkled with pure joy. "This is Raju," Mr. Rao said. "He is one of the happiest children I know." Arav watched as Raju's mother, a woman in a simple cotton sari, served them tea with a warm smile. There was nothing extravagant about their home. It was small and filled with secondhand furniture, yet laughter filled the air. "Raju," Mr. Rao asked, "what makes you happy?" The boy grinned. "Playing with my friends. And when Amma tells me stories at night." Arav was puzzled. "But you don't have a phone or toys or—" Raju shrugged. "So what? I have my friends, my family. That's enough." For the first time in his life, Arav questioned everything he had been taught about happiness. The next morning, Mr. Rao handed Arav a glass jar and a bag of small stones. "Let's do a little experiment," he said. "Fill this jar with these stones." Arav poured the stones into the jar until it was full. "Is it full?" Mr. Rao asked. "Yes, sir," Arav replied. Mr. Rao then took a bag of sand and poured it into the jar. The fine grains slipped between the gaps, filling spaces Arav didn't even notice. "Now is it full?" Arav hesitated. "I think so." Smiling, Mr. Rao took a jug of water and poured it into the jar. The water seeped into every remaining gap, completely filling the jar. "Now, my boy," Mr. Rao said, "this jar represents life. The stones are the truly important things: family, love, health, and purpose. The sand represents the small joys of life, and the water is the little moments we take for granted. But if you try to fill your jar with sand and water first, there will be no room left for the important things." Arav was silent. He had never thought about life this way. "But sir," he finally asked, "where does money fit into this?" Mr. Rao chuckled. "Money is just like the sand. It has its place, but if you focus on it first, your life will always feel incomplete." That night, Arav couldn't sleep. He thought about his life, the expensive things he owned, the constant need for more, and the emptiness that never went away. The next day, he did something he had never done before. Instead of bringing his latest gadget to school, he brought a lunchbox to share with his classmates. Instead of showing off, he sat and listened to their stories. He laughed with them, played without worrying about who won, and for the first time he felt something new: peace, joy, fulfillment. Days turned into weeks, and Arav's mindset changed. He started helping others, appreciating the small moments, and valuing relationships over possessions. His parents noticed the change, and for the first time, they too began to question what true happiness really meant. Years passed, and Arav grew up. He became a successful businessman, not because he chased wealth, but because he found purpose in helping others. He used his earnings to support schools, provide education for underprivileged children, and create opportunities for those who had none. And through it all, he never forgot Mr. Rao's lesson: fill your life with the right things first, and happiness will follow. So now ask yourself, are you filling your jar with the right things? If this story inspired you, hit that like button and subscribe for more wisdom-filled stories. What's a moment in your life when you realize happiness isn't found in material things? Share your story in the comments.